combat uniforms rather than the peacock finery of the centuries above. Proof, if she needed it, that the normal rules didn't apply below the ground. If she'd realized where she was going. She swallowed hard. She hadn't been in any position to argue when the message had arrived at the suite she shared with her adopted father. She'd been summoned, and Duke Philippe himself had arrived to escort her. It wasn't the first time she'd been invited to the palace. She was the adopted daughter of a great nobleman, but it was by far the strangest and the most dangerous. The war wasn't going well. The failed invasion of Britain, the defeat in America, the chaos to the east. She'd caught a handful of officers bemoaning the war, arguing that the Empire should seek peace with the British so they could make territorial gains in Russia while the Russians fought their civil war. If the factions had turned murderous, it wouldn't be the first time. She tried not to shiver in fear. Every Frenchman dreaded a return to the unrest of 1789, where revolutionaries had almost taken Paris, or the wars of religion between Catholics and Protestants. And yet, with the war going poorly, who knew what would happen? People are starving, she reflected grimly. She wasn't a well-dressed princess whose life was a constant whirl of parties, romantic relationships, and little else. She knew the public mood was darkening. One didn't need to read minds to know that. And when people are starving and desperate, they do desperate things. Duke Philippe tightened his grip, just enough to make her wince. "Beyond this door, keep your thoughts to yourself," he said. His tone was curiously flat, as if he cared nothing for her. Simone knew men who were enraptured by her beauty and men who disdained her for being a woman, and yet Duke Philippe, somehow, was worse. She had the impression he'd break her neck in an instant if it suited him, without even a flicker of emotion. There are secrets here that must not be spoken. Simone gritted her teeth, fighting not to pull away. It was hard, even as he loosened his grip. There would be marks on her bare skin. She knew all too well the dark underside of the fairy tale palace. The aristocratic women who used makeup to hide their bruises, and the serving girls too poor or powerless to do the same. She controlled her thoughts with an effort as the doors swung open, revealing a simple chamber. Her heart seemed to skip a beat as she was guided into the room, the 4 men already present, not even deigning to look at her. The room was completely unfurnished, save for a simple stone block. Fear ran through her as she realized where she was, where she had to be. It was the king's judgment hall. "Stay quiet," Duke Philippe ordered. "Say nothing." The other set of doors opened. 2 guards entered, dragging a beaten and bound man between them. Simone's thoughts darted towards him, despite the warning, and stopped, dead, as she tasted his mind aura. It was almost as familiar to her as her own. Talleyrand. Ambassador Talleyrand, her adopted father and guardian and master, and... She staggered, nearly fainting, as her father was pushed to the block. If Duke Philippe hadn't been holding her arm, she feared she would have collapsed. A man stepped forward. He wore royal livery, but she didn't recognize him. The king had many servants, some kept in the shadows. There was no shortage of rumours about them either. "Talleyrand," he said, "you have been judged guilty of—" Simone didn't listen to the charges. She'd always known her adopted father was venal in almost every sense of the word, with an insatiable appetite for titles, money, and women, but they didn't matter. The simple fact he'd been brought here and treated as a rebel rather than as a man of aristocratic blood.